Hey everyone, Nathan here. Hope you guys are having a great day. When I was growing up, it was easy for me, and you could hear me often saying this phrase: I hate the church. Um, Growing up, I was just kind of disenfranchised with the whole thing. I was kind of fed up with how broken it was, how full of hypocrisy it was, and it was easy for me to say, I hate the church. But somewhere along the way, someone held me accountable and said, "Hey, you can't hate the church. The church is led by Jesus. It was Jesus's idea. Like that, that would be foolish for you to hate the church. But you can be part of the solution rather than part of the problem." And from that day, I really took that to heart. And from that day, I began to fall in love with the church. I love God's people. I love the church. I love that Jesus established it. I love the theology. I love the practice. I love everything about it. And there's one particular part that I've always just really, really been passionate about. And it kind of fits with my missional mentality, but it all begins on the day of Jesus' crucifixion. As you guys know, it's a crazy day. It gets dark, and there's no sunshine, and then there's like this earthquake, and all in the same kind of moment, the temple curtain is torn in two. And obviously, there's so much going on in that story that it can be easy to forget that one phrase, that the temple curtain was torn in two. But it's actually this really powerful, super deep, important moment. And that all begins back in the Old Testament, when the people of God, Israel, build their temple. They build it according to the way that God had them design it. But essentially there was like outer courts and inner courts, and then another area. And then there was this place called the Holy of Holies. And the Holy of Holies was thought to be the place where God's presence dwelt. And between the Holy of Holies and the rest of the temple was this curtain. And only one person was ever allowed to go into the Holy of Holies, and that was the high priest. And there's all these like crazy rules about it, and they like used to tie a rope around this guy's leg because he could be struck dead if his heart wasn't in the right place. Like it was like a really, really big deal. And so on the day of Jesus' death, when the temple curtain gets torn in two, essentially the message that's being shared is that God's presence is no longer restricted to this Holy of Holies, but now is available not just to the high priest, but to all people. And it's just this amazing, epic moment, and I love it so much. And it reminds me of this passage in 1 Peter chapter 2, beginning in verse 5, and this is my paraphrase, but essentially it says that you are God's chosen people, holy priesthood. You are living stones in God's temple being built together with Jesus Christ as the chief cornerstone. You can go read it for yourself. Like I said, that's my paraphrase. But essentially, that part that I want you to really take note of is that you are God's temple, that you each are living stones being built together. You know what that means? That means that God's presence is no longer restricted to the Holy of Holies. Now, because God's presence dwells in us, God goes with us wherever we go. And that means that the church is not stuck in just one location like the temple was stuck in Jerusalem back in the Old Testament. Now, God's church goes wherever we go, which means that it's in some of the most crazy, dark places around the world, places that you wouldn't expect God's church to be. It's there, and I've seen it in some of those places, because God's presence is not restricted to some building built by human hands, but dwells in each one of us. And it's just so exciting to me. I'm passionate about the fact that we are God's church, that we're living stones bearing God to the world around us. Anyway, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless.